Today, Victorian opposition leader Brad Battin joined the National Party and hundreds of farmers, as you just saw, on the steps of the Victorian Parliament to protest against legislation that will result in the fire levy in the state tripling. It was an expression of frustration from a community fed up with governments that are seemingly not interested in the needs of Victorians beyond the suburbs of Melbourne. Victorian leader Brad Battin joins me now. Brad, thank you for your time. I know it is a busy sitting week. I've just played the footage of what's happening there on the ground today at the Parliament buildings. Talk to me about the levies and your position on it.
Yeah, we came out today, and thank you very much for having us on, Peter, but we came out today and met up with the farmers, and it's not just farmers. This is a tax on every person who has infrastructure across this state. But the farmers are the ones that are going to get hit hardest and first. And as you said, and I listened to Brad before when you were talking to him about farming at the moment and the challenges they've got when it comes to a drought. We've got the people on those farms who are volunteer firefighters, and now we've got a government that, to repay them and thank them, they want to go out of their way to add an extra tax to them. It is absolutely appalling that farmers' tax is going to increase up to 189%, some more in some cases. That's the average across the state. At the same time, they're already struggling when it comes to drought, lack of support from government, and now we're seeing they have to travel into Melbourne to raise their points. That's why we went out and listened to them.
Brad, what's the point of this increase? 189% is enormous. Is this to pay for the botched merger of the Metropolitan Fire Brigade and the CFA?
Well, this is a problem for the government at the moment because they haven't explained really what the money's for. They're trying to say this is to cover for emergency services. They even tried to put it through Parliament and call it a volunteers tax. Well, it is a volunteers tax because it's taxing volunteers, and now it's going to pay for things like 000, which the government should deliver without any issues, FRV, the Fire Rescue Victoria, as you mentioned. All of these extra costs are now put into this $2.1 billion income stream that is coming from all Victorians, particularly farmers. These are core parts of business. The Victorian government have and always continued to pay for things like the fire services, the emergency response, the 000, out of the funding they've already got. So now they're doing this so they can save $2.1 billion elsewhere, and I'm sure it's going to go to things like the SRL in Melbourne to cover the suburban rail loop, or worse, to go off and they're going to try and pay off their debt with this because Labor cannot manage money, and now they're taxing our farmers to cover up for their waste.
Just the other day, though, they announced something like $350 million to upgrade the Formula One track at Albert Park. I mean, surely paying for fire services is core business of government. That should be done first. And fine, slug me a levy, but I don't volunteer on the weekend. Surely if you're volunteering in the fire brigade on the weekend, you shouldn't have to pay the levy.
Yeah, there's not a person watching your show at the moment that thinks volunteers should be slugged an increased tax for those that go out, where they get caught out at midnight and go out and fight fires, whether it's for an hour or 2 weeks. They go and do it each and every time without question. And as you just said then, every single person with a budget at home has to take priorities of where they're going to spend their money. And this government has the wrong priorities continuously. And I know you mentioned about the F1 Grand Prix and the $350 million. There's one section worse than that. Not only have they gone out and negotiated a new contract, which is costing an extra $350 million for the upgrade, they've also allowed F1 Grand Prix Association to take over the most profitable part of that track, which is the hospitality section within the paddock. This is something that Victorian businesses used to have a chance to go in, get some income and ensure that they could survive. That's now been sold off. So the government spent taxpayers' money to stop Victorians having an opportunity. That's continuation of how this government operates across the state. And who pays? It's the farmers. It's everyone who owns infrastructure. They're continuing to pay the price.
All right, let's be really, really clear then to voters tonight. Where do you stand on this levy?
Our priority right at the moment, Peter, is we do not support this levy. Our goal is to make sure it does not go through this Thursday. We have said to every person that was here today that I've spoken to, my commitment to them, we need to work exceptionally hard to stop it going through this week because farmers won't survive to the next election if this goes through. If the government gets the numbers and the Greens or the Animal Justice Party or any of those other minor parties fold or give up something else and sell out farmers, we will then go and meet with the farmers and find the best way forward so we've got a fairer tax system. But right at the moment, we must stop it. That is our priority. I've promised that to the farmers that we'll work to do that this week, and that is my commitment to them.
All right, Brad, thank you for coming on the show. I know you've got to go back to the Parliament. Thank you.